there can be situations when you wish to abort a test from the test script. Let me show you an example. So in this case, we have here a web page, which is test.k6.local. What do we mean .local? That local doesn't exist. So essentially, we're kind of like simulating that the server is not responding. And we have a relatively long duration and just a few virtual users, but this can be theoretically a much longer duration. So if we run this execution, what we'll see here in the report itself is that after a while, we're going to get these warnings, right? So the server is not responding, and this is continuing on and on. Now imagine that we have a very long duration. There's absolutely no sense in letting this run for a longer period of time because we're only going to get errors. This is not going to be a valid test execution. So why waste so many resources and so much computation power and letting this run when in the end, it's really not worth it? So essentially, I'm going to interrupt this test here with Control-C because we don't need it anymore. And I wanted to show you a way on how you can actually abort a test if for whatever reason you end up in a condition where you say, okay, it doesn't make sense to run this anymore. I want to abort it because it's already too much. Okay, so what we can do, for example, is that we can use the setup stage to, for example, check if the application is running. Some applications have like a status page where you can simply call a status endpoint and see if all services are running. And maybe that is already a precondition for you to let a performance test run. Because if some services are down, for example, a database is down or something else is down, maybe it doesn't make sense to run this because it's not going to be a good comparison. So let's go ahead and simply define the setup function. It's going to be export function, and the name will be setup. So this will be called before the virtual user stage. And inside here, for example, we can use pretty much the same request. And let's say this is some status page. Right? So I'm going to get here some information. This is a status page. So we're going to get here some information about the API or things like that. And we can put this in a variable. And then, for example, we can check if there is an error. So in an if block, we can use rest.error. And for example, if there is an error, we can do the following. We can abort the execution. So in order to abort the execution, we need to import exec from the execution package. So I'm going to use here at the top import exec from, this will be k6/execution. Okay, so this is how we're importing exec. And once we have exec here, all we have to do is write exec.test.abort. And we can also specify here an abort message so that we know what is happening. So we can say something like aborting test. Application is down. All right. So let's go ahead and run this once again and see if there is a difference. So now we have the setup stage. This is running here in the beginning. It's trying to reach the application. No other iterations are done. Nothing else is happening. What we're going to see here is test aborted, aborting test, application is down. So whatever message makes sense to you to put here so that you know what has happened, right? So this will be returned as an error. So this saves us a bit of time and gives you a bit of flexibility in case you reach a condition when it no longer makes sense to run the test, just abort it, and I think everyone will be happier.